Good morning, ladies. Move, move, move. Winter has been extra persistent this year. It's colder than I would like it to be in March, but there are signs of spring everywhere, and I'm trying to remember to focus on those. Our hens are up to full laying capacity. We've got a flock of 10 birds, and we're getting 10 eggs a day. When John was building the coop, we joked that there's no way these hens could lay enough eggs to cover the cost of the coop, but right now I'm really grateful to have our own source of eggs and to be able to share them with family. Sap season has come to an end, and I actually brought you along for processing the last of our sap into syrup last week. We've decided that we want to give some of this as Christmas gifts, and I was worried that we would accidentally eat too much before Christmas, so I'm setting aside right now these little bottles as gifts. That way we don't eat next year's Christmas presents. The house is also full of seedlings, reminding me that gardening season is coming soon. I know I'll be canning things from the garden before long, so right now I'm restocking the pantry by canning things like beans and broth. These are the things I like to can, and I don't grow them. So today we're canning chickpeas. I put these dried chickpeas on to soak last night. This is 5 pounds of organic chickpeas that I got from Azure. So I covered them in water. They've been soaking for a little over 12 hours now. I'm gonna drain them and start to boil. Canning dried chickpeas or any kind of dried beans starts with soaking for 12 to 18 hours, then draining off that soaking liquid, putting in fresh liquid, and boiling for 30 minutes. There is another option where this process can be abbreviated a bit. I'll link down below the directions from the Center for Home Food Preservation. I prefer this method because it's less active time for me. Whoa, this is throwing out a lot of starch as it boils. I'll just skim a little bit off and then set my timer for 30 minutes. While those chickpeas are boiling, I'm just going to prep my jars. I'm not exactly sure how many jars that 5 pounds will make, so I'm just going to prep 8 quart jars. It probably won't require that many. I'm going to use the browning function on my canner today to heat my jars. So each canner has its canning rack. In the bottom, I'm adding 2 quarts of water. Then I've got a little bit of water in each jar just so they don't float around in there. And I'm going to put them in. Then I'm going to close and swivel, brown, and start. And I'm just doing the same over here. Close and swivel, brown, and start. Now that I see that chase bar, I know that this is warming up my jars. They'll be hot and ready whenever I'm ready to fill them. I should mention that when using that browning function to warm jars, it does not need to be kept on until the time that you can. You can warm the jars for a bit, turn the browning function off, and just keep them in the canner to keep them warm. These actually got really hot, so I'm using my tongs to handle them and just dumping out that hot water. I'm using a slotted spoon to fill so that I can fill these with just chickpeas first, then I'll backfill with the cooking liquid. I'm aiming to fill to 1 inch of head space, and so I always eyeball that as the bottom ring. Then once I add in the liquid, I can check it with my headspace tool. By the way, 5 pounds of dried chickpeas turned out to be more than I had expected. I filled all 8 jars, and I did have a few left over, as you can see here. I had an issue with my microphone here, but I was asking if you're familiar with aquafaba. It's the liquid from cooked or canned chickpeas, and I've heard that it's good as an egg replacer. I'm not vegan, but my daughter is allergic to eggs, so I'd like to give it a try. I've also read that it's good for making meringues. I'm a little skeptical. I don't think I want a meringue that tastes like beans, but maybe it doesn't. I'm curious. If you have any experience with aquafaba, share your experience, share your recipes. Let me know what you think. I'm just wiping down my rims with a damp cloth, and then I've been soaking my lids to activate that seal. They're ready to go on. These are my 4 jars lids. I've been using them for about 1.5 years, and I'm really liking them. Bands go on to fingertip tight. So these are ready to go into the canner. Just as a reminder, I've already got my canning rack in there and 2 quarts of water. So I'm just going to load them in. Close and swivel. I'm checking that my pressure limiting valve is set to exhaust. Then I'm going to press high. 90 minutes and start. And I'm doing the same over here. If you're interested in pressure canning pints of chickpeas, you can do those for 75 minutes. I think a lot of people might prefer pints to quarts, but my family's at a size now where pints just aren't helpful for us unless it's a pint of jam. So I'll always do quarts. I also want to mention that every time I share a video of pressure canning, I share the link for the Nesco canner. The last time I did that, I clicked on the link and realized that Amazon seems to be out of stock on the Nesco. So just FYI, the Carey pressure canner is the exact same thing. Nesco's the parent company of Carey, and they just decided to rebrand the canner with their name at one point. But the 2 canners are the exact same. The only difference is the name printed on it. So I'll share a link down below for the Carey canner if you're interested. It just hit E10. We're waiting for E0. It's showing E0. So I'll set to airtight. Then I just wait. My part is done. I've been looking forward to planting my potatoes for weeks now. I got my seed potatoes a couple weeks ago. These are red Norland. I'll plant some other kinds in my raised bed, but today we're doing the no-dig potatoes that I'm going to put in this fresh row of compost. So last year was my first year planting no-dig potatoes, and it was... Hey, love it. Somebody wants to be in the shot. Last year was my first year planting no-dig potatoes, and it was fairly successful, but I do want to do 2 things differently this year. First, I chitted my potatoes. You can see those beautiful sprouts coming from them. So last year when I planted them out, they had not been chitted, and it seemed like it took them an extra long time. Okay, bud. Like it took them an extra long time to sprout, longer than my in-ground potatoes. So I wanted to give them this head start. I also am going to use, buddy, I'm also going to use leaf mulch instead of hay. So I've got my handy seeding square. We're going to space these 12 inches apart. So this is 12 inches and I want my potatoes 12 inches apart. So I'm going to nestle this down in with those nice little sprouts facing up. And then the next one's 12 inches away. Do you want to put it in, buddy?
Yeah.
You can put it in place. Great. Like I said, last year was my first time trying this no-dig approach or the Ruth Stout method. So the potatoes are placed on top of compost and then a thick layer of mulch goes on top several inches. For me, this was perfect because I have clay soil and it's not ideal for potatoes. It's so compacted. I plant some in raised bed space, but that space is limited. So this allows me to expand my gardening space. So the first row is in. I have enough space for a second row, so I'm just going to stagger that second row to really maximize my space. So there's 2 potatoes from my first row. For the second row, I'm going to go right in between, and that way everything has plenty of room to grow. My yield from my no-dig potatoes last year was okay. I wasn't blown away. It wasn't as good as my in-ground potatoes, but I never write something off after trying it once. So I'm trying it again, and like I said, I wanted to make 2 changes this time. So I chitted the potatoes to give them a head start. And the second change I'm going to make is that I'm not going to mulch with hay, because that introduced a lot of weeds into the garden last year. Now for the last step, leaf mulch. I have 2 bags of this. I hope it's enough. It smells so good. I open up this bag and it's just the smell of fall. So we bought a leaf shredder or leaf mulcher last year for the first time. We have lots of mature trees, so it just makes sense for us to be able to turn those into some good mulch. I'm going to try to cover these potatoes in several inches of mulch. I really hope I have enough. When I did my research on this roof stout approach last year, I read mixed reports on using hay as mulch. Some people said don't bother with it because it'll fill your garden with weeds. Others said definitely use hay. If you spread it thickly enough, weeds won't be a problem. And hay has the added benefit of enriching the soil as it breaks down, as opposed to straw, which doesn't have much nutrients to offer the soil. So I gave the hay a shot, and yes, my garden was full of weeds. If you've ever tried mulching like this, what mulch do you like to use? Well, it's not a dramatic reveal. It looks kind of just like a neglected leaf pile. But I have about 36, I think 36 potatoes planted now. I'm going to give these a good soaking to give them a good head start, but also so that the leaves don't blow away. All right, buddy boy, are you ready?
Yeah.
And you want to do this barefoot?
Yes.
Okay. We want all these leaves to be wet. We're going to work on tonight's dinner using another pressure canned item that I usually keep on hand, and that's black beans. This soup is in my regular rotation because it mostly uses ingredients that I keep on hand. I'm just browning 6 strips of bacon here, and I'm going to be sure to take them out with a slotted spoon because I want to leave that grease behind for cooking my onions and garlic. I'm going to start cooking my onions in that good bacon grease. I hope you can hear me over the canning. They're really loud right now, those canners. I love smelling onions cooking in bacon grease. It's really good. These have had a few minutes to soften. I'll add in my garlic. I can smell my garlic now, which means it's time to add in everything else. I'm adding in a quart of homemade chicken broth here, along with 2 quarts of canned black beans. If you want to join me for canning these black beans, I'll attach the video right here. Next, I've got 2 diced carrots, and then it's time for seasonings. It really is a simple soup. So I'm adding in 2 teaspoons of salt. Add salt to taste. It might depend on whether you've started with some salted beans. This is a tablespoon of cumin, and then I've got about, 2 teaspoons, a tablespoon of oregano. This is from the garden, so I'm just crushing it to bring out its flavor as I add it. I like this soup to have a kind of thick consistency, so I just ladle out, maybe a cup or 2 and blend them and add that back into the pot, and that gives the texture that I like. Now I'm going to add my bacon crumbles back in, and I'm also going to add just a splash of sherry vinegar. Last time I made black bean soup, I added this for the first time, and it was so good. It adds a little bit of brightness and just balances the whole thing out. It was delicious.